Hello, my name is Mark Benamou. I teach in the music department here at Earlham College. I've been here since 2001, and I'm the director of the Javanese Gamelan ensemble that you see here beside me and behind me. I just wanted to say a little bit about how they came to be here. So these instruments are from Central Java in Indonesia, and they were made, the original set was made in the 1960s by a gamelan maker whose name was Pak Raso, a famous gamelan maker of the time. The set was originally made for a theater troupe that was sponsored by a wealthy Chinese-Indonesian family. And when I went to Indonesia in 2005 for a sabbatical leave, I heard about this set that was for sale. Before I left, I had asked if there might be funds to buy a gamelan because I said, like, when I go, there will be sets for sale. And sure enough, I got off the plane and a friend of mine picked me up and she said, you know, Mark, there's a gamelan for sale. And it turned out to be this one. So there were others that were for sale during my time there, but we ended up with the very first one that I heard about. And it is a very nice set. So the word gamelan refers to the entire set of instruments. It's not an instrument, it's a whole room full of instruments. And you can see that they're of various kinds, but most of them are made out of, in our case, bronze. Some instruments, some gamelans can be made out of iron or brass, but the finest ones, the most prized ones, the most expensive ones are made out of bronze, cast bronze, that is then pounded with very heavy hammers into these various shapes. And then it's tuned very carefully. And each gamelan has its own specific tuning so that you can't really mix instruments from one gamelan and another one. They're all made as a single set. And if you want to add to them or replace an instrument, they have to be custom made for that particular set. So over the years, I have actually added to the set. And I think it's probably safe to say that this might be the most, certainly among the most complete gamelans in the country. There are something like maybe 100, 150 Javanese gamelan sets in the country, in the United States. And we have one of the most complete ones. One of the things that distinguishes this set is that we have two big gongs. That usually you only find that in the royal palaces. It's very rare for gamelans outside of the royal palaces to have two of those wonderful big gongs over there. We also have an unusual number of these instruments, which are called saron, these metallophones here. I doubled the number of those just because we often have beginning classes, and those are good instruments to start people out on. This does mark the 20th year of gamelan at Earlham College. We will now introduce you to a few of the instruments. There are a lot of instruments here to introduce, but we'll just do a few of them. And we're going to start with the basis of the music really is in these cycles of time that are marked off by certain instruments that their job is to mark off points in the cycle.
This here is the gong, which is where the English word gong comes from, and in the piece we're going to play, the cycle is 8 beats long, and so the gong comes in on the 8th beat, and this is all of these right here are called the compul, and they play on the odd numbered beats, and so they actually play on the 3rd, the 5th, and the 7th beats, and not the 1st, which comes directly after the gong, because you never want to interrupt the gong. And the compul is like alternating with the kanong, which is over there, which Lucas is going to show you. The gong is, people think it's I think when people think of gong, they think of like the Chinese, like more flatter gong. And this, you kind of have to be careful with the way you hit it, because if you don't hit it quite right, it like has this like wobbly sound. So you might want to hit it like this. I can't interrupt it, so you're gonna have to wait. And the compul sounds like a small gong because that's what it is. And we damp it on the beats that it's not playing. So for this piece. And that's what that sounds like.
Hi, I'm Lucas Murray, and I'm going to explain the kanong and the katuk. So, like the gong and the kapul, the kanong divides the gong cycle into more beats. So for the kanong, it actually divides the gong cycle into 4 separate sections. And it keeps time that way. And this is the katuk. The katuk plays in between the notes of the sauron and keeps time that way, kind of like a metronome. I will play the katuk first because it sounds like this. It goes in the lap, so you won't be able to see it very well, but it goes like this. For the kanong sounds like this. My teacher Mark always says you have to pull the sound out of it like a string. So you hit it very gently, but you still get a big sound.
One thing that is important to know about gamelan instruments is that we have 2 different tunings, which is why they're at right angles to each other. This one right here is called the pelog tuning, and it has 7 different notes. But in any given musical phrase, we would normally only use 5 of those. So those are the notes that are available to us, but then the scale that we'd be using would choose 5 of those. And this other one is called slindro, and it has 5 different notes to the octave. You'll notice that this instrument has 7 keys on it, which means that we actually extend beyond a single octave. All of these are in 1 octave. We don't repeat any notes. Here we've repeated, that's the same, and we have 2 of those as well. So this one sounds like this. In this tuning, the octave is divided more or less into 5 equal parts. You might notice that none of these intervals actually occur in a Western scale. So there are no half steps, there are no whole steps, no minor thirds, even though your ear might tell you you're hearing a minor third, because if that's what you're used to, which most of us are. These other instruments that are in front of me, those are all called saron. And in the piece that we're going to demonstrate for you, which is called kabogiro, this instrument plays the same thing as the sarons. So now we'll play these 5 instruments together: the gong, the kampul, the kanong, and the katuk, as well as this instrument called the sluntam. So we'll just play through kabogiro a couple times. We're still missing some layers to the piece, but this is so that you can hear how the back row, what we call the back row, how the time markers fit with the sluntam. 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. that's one time through the piece. Normally we would cycle through any number of times until we're ready to stop playing. And there would be a signal from this instrument. The drum would give a signal to everybody that it's time to stop playing.
Okay, so this is the bonang. Well, these are all different kinds of bonang, and this one in particular plays the introduction to the piece, which is called the bukal. And I essentially play really the same melody as everybody else does, just in a different language, so to speak. And when I hit my last note, that's the 8th beat, which is when the gong plays and everyone comes in. We start at the end because it's a cycle, and it sounds like this. And that would be when the melody starts, and we're gonna do that in just a second. So
Just like the Bonang Baro, the Bonang Pandros will play the same piece we just played, but it's gonna elaborate on both the Bonang Baro's part an octave higher, as well as have a much higher note density than the Bonang Baro. So basically, that means it plays 2 times faster.
thank you for celebrating the 20th anniversary of Gamelan at Earlham with us.